Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 3, Episode 17. It's called Sins of the Father. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. So, this episode is a sequel of sorts. In fact, we even kind of joked it was kind of the reverse of an episode that we got last season with Riker going to a Klingon ship, but they actually referenced that in the episode. This is actually a follow-up to that, where they've got this Klingon, Kern, coming to the Enterprise as the same kind of exchange program, and he requested the Enterprise, and we get some sort of reverse beats of him trying the human food and so on and so on. But the episode actually goes in a very different direction once it actually that's the setup that introduces the ideas, and then it goes in a wildly different direction to that episode with Riker, because at the start it even kind of teases that so Riker had to learn on the Klingon ship that he had to be stern, he had to be this harsh Klingon type character to earn the respect of the crew. And he even there's a scene where he tries to give Kern the same advice because Kern's been too tough on the crew as the second in command. And I thought, okay, obvious episode to do here. This should be fun. This should be a solid episode. But I actually don't mind that it didn't go that route, because even though that would have been fun and solid, it would also be just kind of the reverse of what we got last time we did this. So I think it's kind of fun to use that as the setup and then do something different instead in the second half.
I agree, and I want to say this with the caveat of I actually really quite like this episode, and I like all that stuff that it goes into. I am a little disappointed that it set up things like, will Kern soften and adapt, or to this style, or will the crew kind of work around that and kind of learn to live with it? Can the crew adapt to a different style of leadership, or either way, can we do that? And I thought it was a little frustrating for me that they introduced these ideas and then just, like, say, it was just a setup. We're not even actually going to bother touching on any of that for the rest of the episode. We're doing something else entirely.
Yeah, well, it was more important because the whole point was that he was treating Worf differently to everyone else. Because the big point that the other characters make is that he's being ultra hard on everyone. He's making everyone walk around on eggshells, working as hard as they've ever worked before, because if they step out of line at all, Karen will come down on them like a, ton of bricks. Except, bizarrely, the one character who might actually appreciate to be treated that way, and that's Worf, and that kind of sets up the core idea. And there's a bit of a mystery, and there's a couple of moments in this episode where I went, wait, what? Because they pull a couple of sort of almost soap opera level twists on us. That
they do, yeah. They're
not bad in and of themselves, but they definitely come out of nowhere where I wasn't expecting those beats playing. And I will say, Karen, first things first, I immediately recognised the voice and the mouth a little bit. And it took me a couple of seconds. I had to really sort of think about it for a second, like, who is this? I know this actor. Who is this? It is, of course, Tony Todd. He's a little bit younger than I'm used to seeing him, because obviously the earliest thing I've seen him in is Candyman, which was 1992. So that's about 2 years after this. So we had Tony Todd, who apparently comes back as multiple characters, I think, over the course of all the Trek shows.
9 times out of 10 because of his voice.
Yes, because he's Tony Todd and he has a hell of a voice. And also, if they always have him caked up in so much makeup because he's an alien most of the times, then you can get away with it. Yeah. So it was kind of fun having Tony Todd there, being someone else that I kind of recognize, someone who became bigger, certainly. Maybe not like a huge star, but genre fans definitely know who Tony Todd is, especially if you're a horror fan. Tony Todd's a staple of the B movie. So it's fun having him there for that. But so yeah, the gist of the actual episode, where it really gets going, so like I say, we have some of this stuff early on. We'll go back and talk about some of those particular scenes, but the actual gist of it is that it turns out to be Worf's brother, where he says, he calls him his bigger brother, and Worf's like, huh? And it's like, dun dun dun, like it feels like a soap opera reveal, and I'm like, okay. I'm kind of appreciating how wacky this episode is, but I was kind of thinking to myself throughout, like, okay, but am I going to get to the end of this and think, okay, this is up to the standard of the last couple, or is this good in a different way? And it was kind of this in-between sort of place for me, where I think I appreciate this with a lot for mythology and kind of what it does with its ending, but it's not got the emotional height, say, as the last couple of episodes.
I agree with that. I think, though, it has some really strong moments for Worf, especially towards the end with all of his interactions with Picard.
Yeah, like I say, the ending's really good, but there's also like the escalation in this episode and what I expected to be from the start, which was this reverse of the Riker episode from last season, is that it starts off like that, right? And it's like, this guy's Worf's brother. Okay, that's out of nowhere. Wait, Worf's father's been accused of helping the Romulans attack Katamir? Oh, okay, all right. And then we get to a point, like about 2/3 or so through the episode, where we have scenes of Picard in a robe sneaking around a Klingon city looking for this like old lady Klingon. So, I mean, first of all, we've not really seen much in the way of Klingon civilization before, right? It's not something we've really delved into much.
Dabbled here or there, and like things like the ceremony that we did in the holodeck, stuff like that.
Yeah, but we've not really just visited the city about this, right? I mean, obviously we've seen it from Discovery, from a later show and stuff like that, but not like this.
Not in this show, I don't think.
Or I mean, the original series was even further removed from actually seeing the Klingons' homeworld and civilization and all the rest of it. So we get to this point where Picard's sneaking around in a robe looking for an old lady Klingon, which even in that in and of itself, like how many old people Klingons have we seen? not many.
No, not at all.
I mean, I suppose she's probably about the same age as the Chancellor, who we meet as well. But this is actually a sort of like a weak old woman. She's got that weak old woman kind of feel to it. I'm like, this is very different from a Klingon. I don't expect this type of visual with a Klingon.
It's kind of unique.
And then the ending is legitimately kind of surprising how they wrap this story up, which is to say that they don't really have a neat conclusion for it. Worf has to make this big sacrifice, which I have to imagine completely defines his character from henceforth.
I have to assume so. I love this final moment is this actual heavy character beat. There is no scene back on the Enterprise, no banner. It's them leaving, and that's it. And the credits came up, and I was shocked, because while it was a really natural place for the credits to come up in other shows doing this sort of story on this beat, in Star Trek I'm conditioned to go, okay, well, we've got another minute to go after this still.
I would argue that there's been several episodes at this point that have also basically done this. The only difference is that they've had at least one exterior shot of the Enterprise for the first credit to come up on. Because there's been a few times this season where I felt like instead of having the banter scene, it just goes to the shot of the Enterprise and the credits start playing, and it feels quite quick comparative to what it usually does, where you get the scene on the bridge with them talking or whatever.
Yeah, but I think it was because the credits were still coming up on this interior of this Klingon room that it threw me even more than those other ones that you mentioned there. Yeah.
No, it's definitely a staple. It's one of those things that I feel like TV really developed. Because I always remember, new shows have been doing this for a while, but I think, this is only... this is 1990 now. This is like March 1990 this episode aired. And, when I do think, and I'm not just doing this for the bringing it up, but like when I think of Buffy, right? The hit television show, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, when I think of that show, there's so many good dramatic cuts to that executive producer credit at the end, where it'll have this final beat and it'll just cut to black and you'll get the credit. And sometimes maybe it'll fade to black instead, depending on the moment that it calls for. And this does kind of feel like the start of that kind of, we're not going to have this neat wrap up scene, we're going to let the final beat, whether it be a happy beat, a sad beat, a somber beat, whatever it is, speak for itself and sort of leave you in that feeling as the episode goes out.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see, because let's say we're kind of used to it now on other shows, but on Trek it still feels like new territory.
Yeah, well, because we got really excited, even just the season 1 finale, like setting up the Romulans for the future was a big deal, and we've had other things, or even the fact that we called back in this episode to that episode last season with Riker on the Klingon ship. It was nice to have some sort of connective tissue there. But this may be the first time where the ending of the episode, maybe if I go back to Q Who, I have to go back and maybe see how that ends, because that might have ended in a sort of foreshadowing moment as well. But this is definitely one of the few times, if not the first time, where it's ended on this is for the future. We've just set something up that's important for the rest of this show, or at least for the near future with Worf. Like, this is something that's relevant going forward, that's important, that we've just done, and that's the moment we're leaving on.
Yeah, this isn't a moment that we'll just brush over. This is something that will be a big part of his character for the foreseeable future.
So let's talk about what that is. He basically... So there's attempts to try and disprove the claims that are being made, which is Worf's father was the one who sent the codes to bring down the shields to the Romulans, because they've discovered this new evidence from a Romulan ship that they got these codes. And because of the way Klingons, honor works, the idea that because it's his father, Worf must answer for this since his father's not here to do so. So he goes in. His brother takes the... Let me just get the word here, because there's no way I was ever going to remember this. He takes the role of the... What?
Was it Chadith?
That was Chadik. It was CH at the end. But he takes this, which is basically the warrior bodyguard, because Worf, once he starts this challenging proceedings. He's not allowed to interact in combat or anything like that. So he has to have like a loyal
second.
Yeah, a loyal second who will fight for them. And he actually gets attacked. If anything, the thing that surprised me the most about this episode is that Tony Todd's character, Karen, he gets, as like an assassination attempt where he gets stabbed, and he actually survives. They save him on the Enterprise, but he's kind of just out for most of the episode until the very end when he comes back and gets the aftermath of what's happening. But and then Worf asks Picard to take his place and say, I would like you to be my second. And Picard's like,
hey, are you sure? There's better fighters than me on the ship.
Yeah, but he's not. It'd be honored to have Picard, so he takes Picard, and that's why Picard ends up looking for this, because Riker and co find evidence that's been tampered with, and there was another Klingon who survived. Turns out to be Worf's nurse, and he thought she was dead, but she wasn't. So she might have witnessed stuff and have some evidence. So Picard goes to find her, and that's we get that stuff. There's even
bluff their way into the ending, don't they?
There's even an attempt on Picard's life when he's down there finding her. The Klingon who's determined to get Worf like found guilty of this, basically sends an attack squad after him, but luckily the old woman helps Picard out and he survives. And they bring the old woman. There's a little joke here with the old woman's like, oh yeah, the Chancellor was into me back in the day, but he was too fat, and he's still too fat. Like, there's a little gag there. But all of this is just like, all this is fine, and it's all the fun of the episode of trying to like prove and disprove things. And if there's a failing of this episode, is that just feels like typical fun plot, right? Because the real interesting, the meat of the story is the resolution and the ending.
It is. I think I will give some defense in regards to this point of the episode that we're talking about here, that it's just the plot, it's going around back and forth. It is on a structural level, on a writing level. However, it does feel a little bit more unique because of the setting, because we're doing this on this Klingon city, and there's Klingons going around, and it's kind of part of this society. It feels a little more inherently interesting, even though the core beats are very standard.
Well, that's what I meant at the start when I said that from a mythology point of view, it adds a lot to the overall show. But the actual plot of them looking into the evidence and the trial itself isn't really that interesting until we get to the point where Picard shows up with the old lady towards the end, and they go into the private room, and we've got the Chancellor, the prosecutor, for the lack of a better term, we'll call him, the Klingon, and then we've got Worf, we've got Picard, we've got the old lady. And what we find out here is that the prosecutor is actually, it's his father who was guilty of sending the signal, but because of his family's position in the Klingon Empire, the Empire will erupt in civil war. It will destroy Klingon civilization. It'll decimate it if this news comes out. And they need a scapegoat, and because Worf was in Starfleet, and because he was separate, no one else, he'll not come back and challenge. He doesn't care about his Klingon honor. He's far and separate in a way. And there's even a point in the episode where the Chancellor tries to say, hey, look, just go. It doesn't matter. You're with Starfleet. Let it go.
I served with your father. I knew him. It's fine. We don't really think any lesser of you. You're doing a noble cause. Being diplomatic, essentially, which is the way they see it, which is kind of interesting. Which
even Worf acknowledges is kind of weird for a Klingon, but to the Chancellor's credit, he's trying to achieve his shady goal here. I mean, the end goal may actually be quite a noble one, really, when you think about it, but just the shady tactics of how he's doing it. What he's trying to achieve here is shady, but he is still trying to, because if Worf stands trial and says, no, I'm going to stick up for this, and his father's found guilty, he will be executed. So the Chancellor, you kind of like him a little bit because he's trying to save Worf's life. He's like, no, look, let us away with this, but I'm trying for you not to be killed.
Yeah, and it is quite genuine in that they picked Worf because this is a bloodless option. This will save lives. No one needs to get hurt over this. Sure, it'll be a bit of family honor. Worf probably won't even hear about it because they don't know about Kern being his brother. They don't know he is even alive. And it's
only because of his brother that he even finds out. Otherwise, this would have all happened. They would never have known about it, and it would be just that. So Worf's solution, because he's willing to die at one point, because he says, like, no, I will die for the Empire. I will die so the Empire can remain strong. Yada yada yada. But then he offers
none of it.
And he offers another solution. Well, Picard's not even in the scene. He hasn't even found out about any of this till after.
No, Picard.
Oh, Picard's having none of it. You're right. I thought I said Karen. And obviously, every time it's up with Picard, like, he's like, no, like, I'm going to accompany you as captain. I'm your captain. I'm coming with you. If you're going to be charged with something and possibly executed, I'm not letting you go through that, or not standing in the way if it's unjust. Like, I'm making sure it's So
there's a great moment though where Worf basically goes, "Shut up, you're my Chadich now. I'm taking control. I'm doing what I want. And this is my decision."
Yeah, it's a good beat where, because it's even kind of foreshadowed earlier on, because Cairn's technically in command of everyone but Picard, because he's number one, right? He's number one. He's replaced Riker for the exchange program period. And when he's talking to Worf at one point, Worf even points out, look, on this ship, technically you're in command. I will follow your orders. But when we're down there, we're somewhere else. Like, no. You follow my orders, because he doesn't say this, but basically he plays the big brother card, essentially. So I like that setup, because later on when he does it with Picard, where, no, you're my Shadik right now. Shut up and let me take care of this. I'm in charge here. This is not the ship. But he doesn't
no, this is it's personal for him. It's his responsibility. He's not trying to demean his captain.
Oh no, that's what I was going to say. What I love about it is that there's not even an announce in the moment where he realizes he's getting away with being a dick to his captain or enjoying it. There's none of that. It's completely played straight, where this is just how it is right now.
And I think Picard I think he's shocked, don't get me wrong, that he's just been spoken to like that. But I think he ultimately respects that, no, this is technically, his decision, and he can only interfere so much.
So Worf's ultimate plan, I can't remember the phrase they used for it, but it was essentially to be an outcast. He becomes an outcast of the Klingons, where the Klingons no longer recognize him as Klingon.
Yeah, I was thinking, because it's not excommunicated, it was like D something.
Yeah, it was something like that. But he has this little ceremony, the final scene of the episode, after he kind of explains to his brother what he has to do this, because his brother's kind of against it. And it's actually Picard who gives his brother a little speech. He gives Karen a little speech where he's like, hey, you still have your family name, which means one day you can prove your father's innocence. One day you can still take this. Because ultimately, Worf has taken the fall here. Not via death, but he's taken the fall. And we know that Worf's always had this sort of identity issue where he really cares about his Klingon heritage, and he's always kind of fighting. And the opening part of the episode, while it feels like it is doing the opposite of that Riker episode, it does actually neatly set up a lot of those ideas with Worf himself, where he feels like challenged because Karen's been so nice to him when he's being angry, an angry Klingon to everyone else. And when he questions this, it's like Karen's always trying to push his buttons and treating him like with kiddie gloves, like, oh, you're too soft because you're on the Starfleet. And Worf's always trying to prove himself that he is indeed a Klingon, that he is a true Klingon, even though he's with Starfleet. So him to make this decision and sort of accept, because the actual ceremony is the Klingons all turning their backs to him and shunning him. And
yeah, it's like that, you don't exist to us anymore, sort of thing.
And Worf and Picard have to walk out, and because there's a little moment where there's like a spinning shot of everyone in a circle turning around their backs to him, and Karen won't do it, and Worf has to say, no, you have to do it too. And he turns around. So it's almost like a dance routine at one point, because they're doing it in such well time, because they make this like X with their arms and then turn around. And I was like, that's almost looks like a start of a music video. I'm almost hear a beat coming in, like dun, dun,
I can see it.
Dun, dun. But yeah, so we had this really somber shot of them walking out, and this circle's just left there standing.
Yeah, but it's really interesting for Worf, because like you say with the Klingon stuff, like this is to those council members, this is the most Klingon he's ever been. He's taking that sacrifice for the greater good of their society. They're like, no, this is a really noble Klingon heroic act you're doing. Essentially, you're saving the Empire.
That's
but
not.
Also,
there you go.
But also, you could never really be a Klingon again. Kind of. You never be part of our society.
Yeah, it's very sacrificial. What I was going to say is, let's not forget that he does get to bitch slap the prosecutor before he does the ceremony.
Yeah, in the back room, it's like, you're actually the son of the traitor, and smacks him. But the counselor just kind of nods. He's like, yeah.
Yeah, because he smacks him, and then he sort of just sighs and goes, I'm ready now. Like I had to do that. I had to slap this little bitch before I do this ceremony.
Yeah, it's the Chancellor just kind of nodding and going, yeah, he probably deserved that.
Yeah. So now all that stuff is so the ending's wonderful. The ending elevates things quite a bit, but there's a lot of fun. Even though I don't think the plot is as engaging all the way through, there's a lot of fun stuff in the first half with the fish out of water stuff, and then the second half, just seeing the Klingon world and seeing something as simple as like a little city street at one point in a Klingon world. There you go.
Yeah, it's unique. It's wonderful for that. Like I say, I think it's too hard of a left turn into this other episode that some of the beats it sets up in the first half with the rest of the crew kind of forgotten about, like a couple, like Wesley and Geordie, have these complaints and about, what are we going to do? And there's just kind of no follow up. It kind of goes, it wasn't really about.
I wonder if that's what makes the "I'm your brother" twist so hard hitting, because it feels like the episode is really just setting up for what you've got it in your head exactly what this episode's going to be by the time you get to that sort of 12-minute mark, give or take.
Yeah.
And then it hits you with that, and it's like, whoa, what? And then so you're just completely so it sidetracks everything that was happening beforehand. Everything is just left turn, because there's good stuff in that first 10 minutes. Let's talk about trying the food and the caviar and complaining about the chicken being burned because it's not alive.
Yeah, and there's some interesting moments like with the caviar when he's like this taste. No, he's not even tasting it. He's like, this smells disgusting or something, and Picard explains that our replicators, they can't actually make this that good, for whatever reason. It never turns out right. So this is the real stuff that I say for special occasions. And he understands that, no, this is like a genuine mark of respect that he's being offered here, and he treats it as such, and stops complaining about that the caviar.
Yeah, but he does wipe it on his chicken, which is a bit weird.
It is weird, but he doesn't complain about it. He's just like, I understand this was an important thing that the captain's sharing with me.
Not that I've ever had caviar or really know the etiquette of eating caviar.
In my head, you eat caviar with one of those tiny forks, like a salad fork almost.
I think you put, because even the tray that Crusher brought it on, there was like some sort of crackers or something. I think you put it on a.
See, in my head, it's with like a salad you could have it with, but I mean, I don't know.
No, I
had caviar.
I want to say you put it on like a cracker or maybe like a crisp or a chip for the foreign dialect. I'm not saying you put it on a Pringle, but I think there's
caviar and Doritos, the food of kings.
Oh dear, nah, I don't fancy caviar. I have to say it's never appealed to me.
It hasn't ever appealed to me either. But I mean, if it was in front of me, I'd try it.
Reminding me that it's basically fish eggs is just.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm pretty adventurous when it comes to food. I'm not that like. There's very little you can tell me this is what it is, and I'll be like, oh, I'm not touching that.
I suppose. But I don't think it's for. I don't think it's for me. But yeah, so that stuff's pretty fun, and all the initial stuff. He chews out Wesley. Karen, when he gets to the bridge, he yells at Wesley for talking to Data at one point, and that's kind of delightful in its own way.
Anytime he gets put in line is always delightful.
Yes. So it's some fun beats in that first chunk. I did enjoy Riker trying to talk to him and talk him down, give him some advice, and Karen. Not only does he say that if this was a Klingon ship, I'd have killed you for making a suggestion. Later on at dinner, when he's eating this chicken and stuff, he's like, "Oh, just today," because Troy asked him, "Oh, how are you adjusting to the ship?" And he's like, "Oh, just today, I resisted the urge to kill Commander Riker."
And everyone kind of does a bit of a nervous laugh. And he's like, "Is he joking or not?"
Oh dear, no, it was good stuff. Yeah. So no, honestly, overall, it's a solid episode. Bit of a weird left turn. But the ending has a lot of impact and has implications for things to come. Yeah,
it's like I said, it's a disjointed episode with some technically mundane points elevated by the setting, the uniqueness, and the ending, for sure. That overall would put it into maybe not on par with the last couple, but up in the area of
keeping the consistency of a good quality to great quality. Really, in a place we've not had it in the show yet.
This episode is still better than most of season 1 or 2.
Yes. So no, Sons of the Father, pretty good. Ending, I think it's a real standout because the ending really feels like it sets up a lasting impact on one of the characters.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how this weighs on Worf. Does he kind of lean in more to his Federation side even more now, or does he kind of alternatively try and cling on to the Klingon stuff even more? That was not intentional. I realized as I was saying it. That was awkward. Does he try and keep hold of that stuff even more because now he knows there's no chance of him kind of reconnecting with the society, so he has to kind of do that just for himself.
There's a comedy sketch somewhere about Worf in a roll of Kling film, with clinging, lots of clinging happening.
Yep. Yeah.
He's clingy. He's a clingy.
It was completely accidental, I assure you.
So, but it's like the Mortal Kombat version of Kling that's spelled with a K.
Oh, obviously.
No. What was I going to say? Oh, so there was one point I wanted to make, not specifically about this episode, but relevant to the Worf stuff, is that this show's really set up this idea that this will be important later, but it won't necessarily be felt every episode. It's something that might come up in an episode in season 4, for example. We might not hear about this again until like season 4, episode 12, and that's okay. The show's kind of established that that's kind of what this does, because I was just thinking yesterday about the Borg and about how I know this season ends with the first half of a two-parter, but the big Borg two-parter, Best of Both Worlds, and I'm like, we're getting at the point now where I don't think we're going to see the Borg again before that episode. I feel like that'll be their second appearance after Q Who, which is kind of impressive that they set it up in one episode.
Nearly a season and a half later.
Yeah. And then they're going to pay it off at the end of the following season. I kind of like that long game mentality.
I do as well, and I would say is, I don't want to, not to count what you're saying, because I agree that they probably won't bring it up as directly, for a while. But I think the impact will still be felt. In terms of just the way we look at his character and some of the decisions he makes, it'll be done with this knowledge now, that even if he's not directly referencing these events, it'll be there, at least in our perception, if nothing else.
Yeah, I'll say it again. I think the back half of season 3 is where I'm really feeling the new writing team who are running the show really coming out. We're really feeling the effect of it, I guess, is what I'm saying. So that is Sins of the Father, episode 17 of season 3. Next time, episode 18, of course, is going to be called Allegiance. Here's the description via IMDb. As Connor hiccups. If I remember what that was, I'd go and mute it, but I'm not going to. Picard is kidnapped and held with 3 different aliens. Meanwhile, replaced with a replica as an imposter captain. Oh, we're going to get Patrick Stewart playing an imposter. Oh, this could be fun.
This will either be delightfully fun or potentially tedious.
I can't wait to see what the imposter Picard is like. I can't wait.
This could be good.
That's my new.
I would expect this to be more on the fun end of the scale, though, rather than like, oh no, this is great.
Actually, I like to mention, not this episode. I forgot to mention this last episode. Last episode there was a scene where Picard was woken up out of bed and he was like wearing this weird robe showing off all his chest hair. I don't know, it was a very sexy scene if you're into Patrick Stewart, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It stuck out to me.
I forgot about that.
It stuck out to me. Anyway, that has been our discussion of Sins of the Father. So let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Liking is really important on YouTube. It does let YouTube algorithm know that you think we're worth watching, and other people will get to see us and find us as a result. You can also support us in a similar way by rating the podcast on Apple Podcasts. You can support us financially, though, over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses for your trouble, including a bonus already cancelled on 6 Feet Under, which is every other week, so you can get access to that. The $5 tier, you get early access to a bunch of stuff, including these Star Trek reviews and so on and so forth. So go and have a look and see if you're interested, as my cat jumps up right at the end of the show to distract me, Firefly, you little menace. So yeah, go do that. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek, guys. And remember, when it comes to the ladies, Wesley Crusher is in complete control.